meeting to order. Want to wish a happy birthday to Mr. Boyd and Miss Jennifer. And we'll have a moment of silence and ask Mr. Riddle to lead us in the pledge.
All rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Actual first item is items to be declared as surplus. Who has that? Anybody? Dr. Adams?
Yes, sir.
Do you have that? Or you got anything you want to say about that?
Just all extra equipment that we're looking to surplus and put on gov deals. Didn't have a chance. There's also 72 large 21 or 22-inch TVs from the old 21st century classrooms that Mr. Fulbright wants to also surplus. Last time we put them on gov deals and nobody bought any of them, so we're basically, with your permission, would surplus those and find somebody to come haul them off. At this moment, there are 72 of those.
What did the mobile units bring, Jared? You know, I seen where they sold
The portables?
The portables.
The two at Sulphur Springs brought just under $5,200, and the two at, and that's for both of them, and the two at Lamar are about a little over $1,100. It's around $6,500
That's great.
total.
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
What, Dr. Adams, what happens to the buses? I know we drill holes in the blocks. I saw you cut the frames in
Call
half.
me, we can do that. Can't
So,
Actually, a work
should
session.
you just go to scrap?
You
or
involved
just
it in the
scrap
work
metal?
session.
How do you
we?
dispose of it?
That's what I thought, but
You mean move just to put it on action?
we can't, yeah, we got
We sell them as is, and they'll come and haul them off, and they scrap them. That's what they do with them.
Should have asked before. All right.
I moved to put this on action item for May 4th.
A second.
Okay. We don't have to vote on that. Okay. So, next item is propane bid. Is that you, Dr. Adams?
Yes, sir. Back in March, we put a propane bid out for the normal areas, the schools and the bus garage. And with the grant monies that we are getting to buy the propane buses, we found it necessary to include a card reader at the propane filling station at the bus garage so we can keep better track of the gas coming in and out. And when we put that initial bid out, we had 0 bids for it. I talked to some of the companies that we'd sent that to, and the issue was the costs they have to incur to add the card reader at that pump. They didn't want to do it unless they felt it would be a long-term agreement, a longer-term agreement. So came to the conclusion that offering a 3-year contract would be the best way to get that done. And so we set it back out to bid, exactly the same bid, but instead of for a 1 year, we made it for 3 years, and we got 1 bid from Blossman Gas. The cost is, and from what I can tell, is very similar to what we've paid in the past per gallon. The only additional cost is the extra, the annual fee for the setup at the bus garage is a little bit more. As you can see there, that annual lease price is $300. That's including the cost of the tank, or the propane, the card reader. There we go. And so we would like to accept this bid. It's a 3-year contract, and take the $1.89 as the fixed cost price. And the rest of it's pretty much exactly the same. Again, we'll have 11 propane buses, and with everybody's approval moving forward, It looks like we're going to ask for 8 more propane buses to be bought next school year. And so the more buses there, right now Tony and the guys are trying to keep that information by hand on paper and pencil, and it's too much. They can't do it, not to meet the terms of the grant award. So
All right.
So that dealer cost is $1.3 million for the next 3 years for propane for all the schools and,
no, that was his cost. It's $1.39.
okay.
And then he can have a markup of 94 cents, which would take it to $2.33. But if you scroll on to the right, there's a fixed price of $1.89, and that would be our recommendation to accept that fixed price per gallon of $1.89.
So how much is propane on the bidding it out today for the schools and stuff? Because we got to do that very soon.
That's
included.
That's
That
included.
is
That's
included $1.89.
Yes.
Jared, do you have the total of what that's gonna cost for setup and everything?
I think it's is it $1,100 per year for 3 years?
Is that what that is, 1,100 a year per year?
Uh-huh.
Tank lease. I
That's the
think
tank leases and the card reader.
So 3,300 for the contract.
Yes, sir. Plus of course the gas.
Mr. Flainer.
What we paying for propane?
I'm sorry.
What we paying that?
I'd have to look at that. I'm sorry, I don't have that right off the bat. I think it's somewhat similar to $1.89.
I was gonna say, I think that's about what we did last year.
Yeah.
Real close.
I just paid $2.89 yesterday.
I just hate we're getting one bid for 2 years, which, I mean, we don't have no say-so over how many people bid it, but that is discouraging.
Well, and last year, when we figured out we probably need to get a card reader, the company that we have currently right now, they wanted to sell us one. And I want to say Tony priced at just under $15,000 to buy the card reader. So,
This company will service it and all.
yeah, it's all we have to do is hook it up. And by us, I mean Mr. Patrick.
Is that something we can do, Philip, I guess? Installing the reader?
Well, actually not installed, it comes as a package unit connected with the tank on a frame, and we'll furnish probably with 110 volts.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no really install.
Probably somebody from a gas company will come calibrate it, that sort of thing.
No safety issues that we have to do if we putting it up like that?
We've met them all. Yep, we met all those when we poured our concrete, put the bollards around it.
All right, anybody else?
Jason, I move put this on action item.
Okay.
You need a second on that, or is it motion good?
No, just move it, okay.
You're in the work session,
So we're just moving, okay. All right, athletics.
I had
Practice.
talked to Jennifer, maybe she can put a little more info on the practice field for David Crockett is,
I can,
okay, Mr. Boyd.
yes. You know, just a request, apparently it's been a lot of groundwork done by the athletic director at Crockett. They've been wanting to develop a practice field in an area of their campus. And Dr. Flannery apparently previously also was directly involved in surveying the property, getting a lot of questions answered for Mr. Patrick. You know, the main concern that we have as a school system to ensure that the drainage certainly is handled in the best way so it doesn't flood the areas it shouldn't. That was what some of the work's done on the survey. The proposal is using existing remaining funds out of their athletic fund for this year and then finish the work next year with the remaining balance of the $9,500. You know, that's what, with the understanding that they would have the same amount next year in their athletic fund. So they want to get started, but go ahead and make the commitment so that then when the new fiscal year rolls around, they can add that additional $5,500 from their existing allocation and finish the work.
What's your recommendation?
Well, I think if there's a concern that you know, I don't imagine, although that's a board decision, that they won't have access to funds next fiscal year. So I assume they will. I think if they can go ahead and get the work done and all the planning and preparation and basically homework and ground and field work they've done, I recommend that, you know, we proceed in the manner that they've requested.
How much does it, is it gonna cost to do it?
A total of $9,500.
And that does it complete, right?
Yes, sir.
And they've got how
Funds to
much?
do it.
Yes, both the remaining of this year fiscal year budget and then their anticipated allocations in the athletic fund next year. A portion, a small, you know, the smaller portion of the rest of the project. Yes, sir.
Brad, do you see any difference in this year and next on athletic funds for David Crockett to finish this project?
Not as long as the board keeps, not as long as the board keeps the same allocation in the budget.
Let me, when does the next year start?
July 1.
So they won't have it done before football season.
Not likely. I mean, they may have the field prepped, but unless we're going to put sod on that field, which that's not part of the scope of work.
Yeah.
The reality is no.
Do you know exactly where it's gonna be at down there?
Now, Mr. Patrick can help me with that.
Yes, sir. If any of you are familiar with the baseball field and the barn, it'll be adjacent, and the creek runs beside at an angle from the barn. It'll run along that creek for 275 yards? No, 275 feet. And football field width, with a drainage line underneath it to pull the water away from the barn.
Is, Mr. Patrick, is that gonna be an issue if they just do half of it? I mean, is that, I don't know exactly what they're doing. I mean, I don't know what the scope of work is. I guess my question is, my experience, sometimes you do half a job and then you got extra work to finish it later.
Right, what we have to really ensure that is, if they do half the work, that at least the half done will permit the drainage from the back of property itself to get through. And then if they can get some, some grass seed sowed on it, it should be fine.
Okay.
Can I make a suggestion that we go ahead and let them do it all and we pay for it? And then when new budget comes back, we deduct X amount of dollars from their money that they're getting to have that thing finished? And it'll be paid, it'll be done and paid for, and they'll just get that less. I mean, is that something that can be done?
You know, it's not good practice.
I understand that.
Yes, sir.
I wouldn't wanna do that, but I'd like to see them get it
We
done
want it
Well,
done.
that's what
somehow.
I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
What do you think about waiting and letting you use this year's funds and next, and have it done all at one time next year?
They could delay, I know that would be their preference, but to move forward and make sure that they have the continuity to get it done. In talking with Mr. Hale, we have had a practice, if they have a surplus in their athletic fund at the end of the year, we write a check and they put it in a restricted fund. So actually, they would have the funds available, and then when the new fiscal year rolls around, they could then combine and have the total amount available and start the work with money in hand, and then not have that concern about the.
Will they have that extra money come July of this year?
As soon as, yeah, we operate under that.
So they would have the complete funds this year to do it?
They would. You know, I think he wants to get started, of course. I don't blame him, but if that's a decision on Tuesday night that the board needs to make, then, we certainly will adjust.
You know what the time frame is on getting it done?
I'm sure it varies with availability of equipment and workers and materials, but
We're not talking 3
you're
months.
still talking about when you set the field and everything the way you want it, then you sow it, seed it, and it won't be usable for some time.
Mr. Patrick, does this eliminate the issue we kept hearing last year about them practicing on the baseball field? Is that what this is about?
This is too,
I mean, that's why
I
they're
don't
doing
remember
this,
them
isn't it?
practicing on a baseball field.
Well,
but
they
it
kept
does
saying
give
that
them
water issue was
Right, right.
I don't know whether it was or not, I don't know,
The water
but,
issue was taken care of on a baseball field in a
Right.
separate
Right.
process we did. But this will give the football team or soccer, when they're not practicing, another option.
Mhm.
And then, of course, we got the large field out front, that's an option for somebody to practice on.
Right.
It just frees up and it gets students home before 8 o'clock,
Yeah,
when you got two trying to use the same field.
yes.
I think it's close enough in time frame where they can start the project and then after July, they'll be able to finish. And then sow it in the fall. I think it's not, time-wise, it's not a big deal. And if they time it up right, they can start it and finish it all together there.
I believe that's the plan,
That's
that's
what I
what
think.
they believe will
So-
be the plan.
Well, they ain't got what they need on it. They need to put some pipe and irrigation under it to be able to irrigate it.
That's what they want to do now.
Well, right now's the time to put it in when they're putting the dirt in there.
Right.
I don't
And get it
see
wet.
no irrigation
No,
on
that's why I
that.
say, that's something that really,
Yeah, their plan does not include irrigation.
and I've got irrigation out there at the road for a practice field, and I've got irrigation underneath the football field right now. So,
Phil, is there water access to that close?
Just the creek, unless we want to pay for city water. Now, we can pay for city water, but that gets quite expensive. Have to put a deduct meter down there, and, because we are paying sewer at the David Crockett High School now.
but we're pumping out of the creek to do the football field, right? Both places, we're
Yes,
pumping
sir.
out of the creek.
Yes, sir.
So, I think they ought to put irrigation under it while they're doing it.
Would it be appropriate then to try to find out or give us a couple of different proposals on that, Mr. Boyd?
Well, I certainly would want to make sure that there was a cost estimate on that.
I mean,
before
we're
the
changing
board
the
would
scope
make
of
a
work.
decision on-
They might kill us, but we probably ought to revisit it and get more detail. I mean, we want to do it right if we're gonna do it.
Well, I don't disagree, but, you know, I'm sure Mr. Kite and coaches are ready to,
Yeah.
shovel ready, I guess, but, I understand. So we can,
If the creek's that close, I'd soon get a price on it.
Well, okay, so let's back up a minute. So I feel like I hear you saying we need to let them move on. And.
But I agree
we-
with the
we can-
idea that
We
if
can
we're gonna
still
do
got
it.
time to deal with this, I think,
I believe so.
yeah. So, and not hold up the project and still let them, they can come back with that.
The critical point would be before they kind of finish that surface.
Right. All right, do we got anybody wanna move that?
I move to put it on action item.
What do you want?
Well, if we're changing the proposal, we ain't got nothing to put on that.
Well, no, we're gonna let them move forward as is, but we're gonna ask them to, cause it can be done, it ain't gonna be done just yet.
And let Mr. Boyd oversee that as far as adding this to it.
We'll work
Come
with
back
them
to
to
us.
get an estimate of the cost of adding irrigation to that.
Cause it could potentially, if we can't do it in-house, it could potentially be so expensive they can't do it anyway. So, the irrigation portion,
Sure.
you know what I mean?
You're exactly right.
It could be, but they can still have this worst case scenario.
And there's different levels of irrigation.
Sir,
I said there's different levels of irrigation as far
there's
as.
a lot of
what-
different levels you can,
Yes, sir.
yes, sir, lots of different levels.
So you all can, you and Mr. Patrick and Josh can figure that out maybe? We're just, so we can help if we can.
At least they can get started.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, thank you. Yeah, we'll-
Then you had trophies, got on.
Yeah, I've had several calls, and Jennifer, did you get that list of, is it on BOE? To my knowledge, there's like 311 trophies that come out of Boones Creek Middle School that Mr. Patrick is housing, to my knowledge.
That's correct. Now, I don't know the exact
And-
number. They were never,
Yeah, I think Jennifer said the itemized list is like 311 of them down there. So I've had several people ask what we're gonna do with it, or what's our plan, and I just felt like we need to put it on the agenda to see what everybody's thought was. I did contact Mr. Brewer at Boone. He is, got the material that come from the old Boones Creek School to build a trophy case. And kind of a little bit of his thought was, he's got enough to maybe build 2 trophy cases at the new facility, one to house these 300 plus, and then build another one from when we opened up till whenever. So that's just one of, I guess, one of the suggestions I've got to do with it.
What?
I just wanted to, just as a sidebar to that, did you know that in Sullivan County, they are selling the old trophies?
Man, that might be something,
Well,
we-
I
you
mean,
know,
they're
I don't
selling the
know.
ones from Sullivan South because they're not going, I just thought that was interesting. I'm not saying that
Right.
that's something I hadn't even thought about till I saw that on the news.
Does anybody remember, we had some sort of decision on this already. Chad, do you remember what we did, or David, or anybody?
What we said was, or before we come on the board, the one that was
The state.
the third, and it was a state or country?
Might have
The
been-
state, the state trophy,
And I think it's in your
the
office,
big
right?
one.
Yeah.
We got it, and then the rest of them, what did we say we was doing
And the
with
rest
them?
of them, we were waiting for Mr. Brewer was gonna build the trophy cases, and then we never did say how many was going back or what. Don't, you know, the big reason, I mean, people calling, I think, is because they just want to see them get gone or whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Well, we
Whatever
kinda went
their
through this whole thing when
Okay.
they, but I'm not saying don't do
Oh,
anything
no,
about
I
it.
just,
I just couldn't remember what
I don't think we
solution
ever-
we had before.
I think we made one.
Okay.
and I'm sure Mr. Patrick can use the space to get them out of his building.
Did,
That'd be very nice.
is that Boones Creek Historical Bunch, are they over there at Billy Joe's? Are they, they've got a lot of history stuff in there, and I'm wondering if they would want some of them Boones Creek School trophies to put in their place.
I think first and foremost, though, we ought to take them to our school.
That's my
And then
thought.
second, what is the decision of the board as far as, do you give them back to somebody that was on that team, or a family member, or, you know, perhaps a historical society, or whatever. But I think if we have a choice, it'd be nice to put them at the new school, but you don't wanna put all the ones at the new school and not have room for, you know, next year's champions, or like, you know, but if it's like Mr. Masters is saying, if they've got plenty of wood and stuff, then they can build, you know, when they have the room for that to be built, shoot, let's try to put them all as many as we can there.
And basically what Jerry told me was, the wood, if you will, that he got is like 2x6s, come off the bleachers. And he's basically gonna use them for shelves and then build the structure around it. So,
Be good if all the high school trophies for when that was the actual high school go to the high school.
Well, they didn't have room for them. You know
Well,
what I
I
mean?
mean, for the high school.
Yeah, there was a reason why we,
Keep
I
the
guess, sort of
elementary
done what
ones.
we done, but I don't remember.
Mr.
I don't, yes, sir.
I've just got a question. I mean, we've got 300 plus, 311, it looks like. I mean, that's gonna take a lot of staff time for somebody to sort through all this stuff. Have y'all talked about maybe listing the aid of the various booster clubs? You know, for example, basketball, football, segregating that stuff, sending it to them and say, here, what do y'all wanna do with it?
I don't,
Well,
I don't know.
I didn't want to say it, I'm glad Mitch did, but I was thinking, that's gonna cost a lot of money to pay somebody to sit there and pull them trophies.
what Jerry's suggestion was, he'd go over and measure them and not put them in any particular order, but in size order. So he'd know how to build the shelves.
What do you want to do with them? We just need a suggestion.
I don't know, I mean.
I don't either. Anybody?
I say give them to Boones Creek Historical if they take them.
I doubt they want 300 of
I
them.
doubt if they
Well,
do.
they may
might want
not,
the
but we could
oldest
put
ones.
in some, go back, you know, Boones Creek High School.
You got any ideas?
You know, I haven't dealt with some of that, you know, when I was principal of the new high school, and we had trophies back to the 1920s. We just we highlighted some, and created an area in the school that highlighted the history. And then you could rotate, you know, but that requires
Storage.
human effort, but you could rotate in each year, think about different years and just rotate that through. And so a trophy case that holds some, but not all, but you then find a way to highlight those for each year. But you still have to store, and then, of course, someone has to do that.
Can we do, like Mitch said, have some kind of little boosters committee or something to figure it out? I mean,
Yeah.
You wanna do it?
donate, to get them to donate their.
Or do whatever they wanna do with them?
I don't know.
So do we need to take action on this or not?
If you're all fine with that, me and Mike come back.
Yeah, we
with a-
can-
We'll talk to them, see what,
Okay, good.
and that way an action to go back with, if that's all right with you.
So we're gonna leave that alone for now.
Sounds like it. We get
Okay.
Some possible solutions and we can work towards.
But Chad and I can take the list and kind of maybe go down there at Phillips and figure out something, bring it back to us and see what.
And that's 310 that have been inventoried.
I can't remember what they done with all the ones out of Lamar. Cause what'd they do with them, Philip, remember?
I don't know.
We're gonna have the same problem when we do
I have no idea.
Jonesboro.
When they built
We got all
Lamar?
those trophies in
So
Jonesboro.
maybe
we
if
can do
we,
something with.
we can create a process that can be repeated
Mhm.
and reliable.
The last action we took was just store, the board action.
Okay.
Except the one that's in his office. and
So we're
that's-
still on that action
And I
right
was
now.
told to protect that.
he was told-
All right, is that it?
I got one other thing.
You wanna go ahead? Well, I've already talked to him about it.
Yeah, go ahead, Mary Beth.
I had a parent and a school employee reach out to me. Daniel Boone has a dance team, and the instructor slash coach doesn't receive a stipend. She works from May to February and takes them to camp and does outreach programs with students with disabilities and has several practices weekly. And I didn't know this, but several girls from this team have received scholarships. I'd just like to see us maybe put an action item, maybe talk about it. I haven't really thought about an amount, but I'd like to research the amount, but look into giving her a stipend at Daniel Boone. And then I'd also heard that there might be a group interested at Crockett.
Mr. Chairman.
But the dance team, what we were talking, only goes to the home games. They don't go to away, but they do have they do a lot during the
And they do
year.
football and basketball.
Right, they do both. We just maybe need to research as far as the amount. But I do feel like we need to pay this person.
Mr. Chairman, I made a request to Brad earlier, and he looked at different figures and suggested maybe $1,200 for
That
that.
sounds great.
What's the cheerleading coach make now? Now, all reason why I'm asking, the cheerleaders go to every game. And if we just do home games, Mary Beth and I talked about doing half of whatever the stipend is for the cheerleaders, since they're only doing half the games, but.
I'll have it in just a few seconds. From memory, I'm thinking it's 1,822, but give me
Okay.
just about.
And I did talk to
30 seconds
Mr. Good about this earlier today. He's all for whatever we decide. He said it's a club right now. It's not sanctioned by TWSAA. So, he's good for whatever we come up with, or if anything, but he did say that it is an asset to the high school to have this particular coach there.
Sure.
So,
I was surprised at the number of scholarships that come from.
That's amazing,
Yeah, that's
isn't
what-
it? Right,
Mhm.
and they do a really good job.
So the head cheerleader sponsors 2,000 a year, the assistant's 1,800. And as part of the budget, me and Mr. Boyd was talking about this earlier, I'm gonna display the actual coaching supplements. I know in the past you've approved it as a board, but both of us felt y'all as a board need to see that every year.
right.
So I was gonna actually pull that supplement sheet up when we get the budget in a little while.
Well, if nobody has objection, I'd like to go ahead and make not a motion, but
You wanna move to put it on?
I want to move and put it on action item.
On
Thank
action
you.
item.
$1,000 per school for our dance team as a stipend.
For the high school.
For the high school, yes.
Is this for the current year or next year?
It's for next year, yes, sir.
Okay, so it'd be part of the budget process.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, and that's it on
That's all I
athletics?
got, yes, sir.
Okay. Facilities, Mr. Riddle?
I'll defer to Mr. Boyd on that.
Okay, thank you. Let me get back to my page. Just a couple of items on there. Just want to update the board and in consideration and moving forward to the agenda on Tuesday. We do have some estimates that have been developed for the stadium upgrades, both for for Boone and Crockett. Let's see where my notes go. I'm just gonna go, instead of opening up this document that we've been provided by the architect, I'm gonna give you the highlights. To repair for Boone, to repair, the estimated cost would be $275,000. Based on what's been identified and what the repairs that are needed. If we're talking the new replacement with aluminum bleachers, and all the work that would go into to both demolish the existing bleachers and replace with those aluminum bleachers, the estimate is between 1.35 and 1.55 million.
That's to take it down and come back with the new.
Essentially new construction for the bleachers, yes. And that's for Boone. And for Crockett, the repair is a little bit more because the need is a little bit more as far as what repairs are needed. It's $350,000 estimate. And then the scope of work, what was listed for the scope of work for Crockett was the high end of what was listed for Boone was 1.55 million.
All right. How about a moving on that?
Well, my only, if I can, my
Yeah.
only question is if, and I guess it's just my preference, if we repair, would we be able to utilize the bottom like we have years ago that we can't now?
You know, it's still, and talking with Mr. Patrick, it's still not recommended, even with repair, just because of the type of space that's under that concrete form bleacher. The board could entertain, if there's space, if there needs to be storage, and entertain a low-cost metal building facility that's, you know, just serves for the purpose of storage, other than storing underneath the bleachers.
Would we have the funds to replace?
I don't know that a little bit. Is it, and you may not know, what's the fear of storing under it? Is it because of the kind of space it is, or is it because they're worried about the bleachers? Do you know?
Well, I mean, I'll certainly let Mr. Patrick elaborate on that.
It's
and then I can
just
take
in
it up.
such a state of disrepair and age.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's wood construction,
Okay.
asphalt shingles, and that's all. And trying to attach that to the back of the bleachers that had no real back end of it.
Yeah.
There was makeshift footings
Okay.
put in, and it just goes on and on.
Gotcha.
So what I'm hearing is with these repairs, and then we would have additional costs if we wanted to use it for storage, and it might be cheaper to just identify a space to put a metal building for storage than to prepare that area for acceptable storage.
So the cost to do the bleachers at Crockett was did you say 350,000?
350 to repair.
The estimated.
Repair, all right. To build new would be
About 1.5 million, yes, sir, is the estimated cost.
so what is the difference between building at Crockett and building at Boone?
Well, you know,
Because-
I don't know. I mean, honestly, can't answer that question. There's an estimated range, but then when it listed for Crockett, it was just that one amount. There was no range listed, just 1.5, 5 million.
Well, that's what gets me, is that don't make much sense, because if it's gonna cost us $350,000 to tear it down, and it's 1.2 or 1 point something at Boone to build brand new, then the 350 could go towards the 1.2, and you've got $850,000, $900,000 in it. That's the way I'm looking at it.
I don't know Crockett's that well, but I know Daniel Boone's is in, my personal opinion is tear it down, put new ones up. I mean, that's just me, if we have the funds.
But that's what I say, I've got
Yes.
the $350 or $350,000 that they say it's gonna cost, that go towards the new one. And I've got,
Right, and if you're looking long-term, I think, we would have to come back and repair these bleachers if we maintain the concrete forms. I don't know what that timeline would be. It could be 5, it could be 10, it could be 20, I don't know. With an aluminum bleacher, you know, you're probably gonna be very safely to get between 15 and 25 years.
And not have to worry with it anymore.
With some maintenance, of course, but not as much as you might in continually to repair, but that's just my opinion.
Because we can't utilize the bottom, I just soon get rid of them.
And this is just an estimate
Yes, sir.
for this, so we're
Yes,
gonna
sir.
put it out to bid.
Yes, sir. It could be twice as much as they've estimated. We
Right.
don't know.
It could be half as much.
It could be half as much,
I
to be
doubt.
optimistic, yes, sir.
Come on, Eddie.
But,
We can hope for that.
I would like to see, well, I guess we need to look into what different types there are, you know, what's available out there, and maybe even go see, because this is a big ticket item. I think we need to go physically look at some of what we're gonna bid out if we did do new ones. Go see them and sit on them, walk up and down them, you know, check them for comfort. I mean, that's a big ticket item, so we need to know what we're talking about there.
Capacity.
Who told,
Capacity.
who gave us this 1.5 and 1 point?
It was the architect that we've utilized,
So they had to have a spec on where they got that number,
of course, yeah.
so they ought to be able to
Can we
provide
go back
that.
to them and see which ones they've done in the past?
Yeah.
Whether it be Elizabethans or, I mean,
I-
can we find out where they've done?
In other words, which ones did they price which ones did they spec to 1.5 or whatever? Is it something they've done locally?
If I had to guess, they contacted one of these bleacher companies, and you give them a number you want to seat for a typical, and this is not on piers, this is on like footings,
Right.
and totally aluminum instead of up a bank where it's on piers like Unicoi is. And this also includes, that price, that estimate includes, I think it was 200 seats with backrests in the middle, a press box, a crow's nest on the press box for filming, and blisters, home, and media.
Yeah, in the documentation,
Heating and cooling.
yeah, the press box, yeah. In the documentation, you know, in the documents, and this is for a Boone, which is the same specs for Crockett. It's listing 2,000 seats, and then there's 400 molded seats, so actually have the molded seating on the aluminum. Of course, that's still an aluminum framing and supports. And then the prefabbed press box has, it is lighted, you know, it has LED lights, power, all the wiring, you know, just sits on top of those. So it also comes with a new press box. So included in that estimated cost of the 1.3 to 1.5 is that capacity of seating, all the aluminum construction and steel construction, as well as the press box.
Did you say 2,000 plus the 400 or 2,000?
The way it's
No.
listed, that's a good question. It's 2,000 seats, so I'm going to assume that's the total capacity.
Back at
And of those
400.
2,000 seats, 400 of them would have the molded seating.
Bill, do you know what our capacity is now at both?
We're right at 2,100, somewhere in there.
So we won't lose much.
No, you will not. And this, of course, is ADA accessible by ramp. The entire seating section is roughly 4 feet above plating surface.
Yeah,
Does that
so it's
include
above-
visitor too, did you say, or no?
No.
No, this is
That's
just the
just
home.
one side,
Yeah,
okay.
the one side.
So basically, I guess what we gotta ask ourselves is, do we have $3 million?
That was my question.
But there's the guy.
Or do we have
And
less than
no.
500,000?
Yeah.
No to ESSER money.
Well, and just to be clear, yeah, that is not considered deferred maintenance. That was under the guidelines of ESSER, so, for athletic fields. If we had a classroom, maybe.
Could we
push it
do
up.
one this year and the other one next year?
I think that'd be a good idea.
I don't think it'd go over very well.
Mm-mm.
Well, I mean, you know, you gotta crawl before you can
We'll
walk.
talk about budget here in a little while, so.
So, yeah, I mean, I would not, I mean, as far as if the question about budget is within an operational budget, I mean, I think that's a clear answer of, that's not possible.
That's what
But looking at the capital funds, if that's in the plans, and, you know, certainly we can seek to expend those funds for that kind of a renovation.
Could go to commission too and ask.
All right.
Of course, and you know, whatever ultimately the board directs me to do, I'll be glad to pursue that, but.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
as we work through our budgets and our capital plan, I would suggest that we do put this on there for next year or the year after. And, you know, I think the number floating around on there right now is either 12 or 14 million. So,
Yes, sir.
So this would,
Looks
Make
like
it more
better.
realistic,
so,
Yeah.
a better target here.
Can we at least price them, just for information?
I mean, I think, you know, the estimates we got are, even though it's a range,
Pretty good.
it's a pretty solid estimate right now. Of course, as materials increase over time, but I think right now that's a really good indication of what the cost would be. Plus or minus 25–30%, I'm sure.
Okay.
And best of my memory, the valuation that they done is nothing we have to do right now. Is that correct?
No, it's really, the task was, yes. You know,
So-
as far as the safety factors and all those concerns, I think we do have some time, but, you know, it's a decision that's gonna need to be made.
And I like what Mitch said, just to,
Mhm.
we've got 3.1 in upper end construction cost on it, and another 200,000 in architectural fees, so you're at 3.3. You know, we probably drop in at 3.4, 3.5. I don't know, Philip, but you come up with a number and drop it in your capital projects plan and rock and roll.
All right, so we're gonna move to do nothing.
We'll talk about it in budgeting
budgeting.
Yeah.
next hour.
Yeah, next hour, okay. Mr. Boyd, it's still all you.
Thank you. Let me go back to my agenda. The other updates are ionization units. I thought we were a little further along. We're still finalizing that but we will be coming to the board for a request to bids. I was hoping we could do that Tuesday, but it appears that we're just not at that point yet. I know that's been a discussion now for several months. We need to move on that, and as soon as we get to the point that we can bid, we'll be coming to the board to get permission to bid and then get that out to bid ASAP.
For a time constraint, I think if we have to, I'd like to do like a called meeting for that. If it happens quicker than our next meeting down the road, I think it's something that's important enough.
Sure.
Need to happen pretty quick, if everyone would agree to that.
You know, I would request that when we get to that point. I'll keep the board updated when that is an option for us, and then we can move as quickly as possible on that. And just as a reminder, that would be something that's been targeted for ESSER dollars, with ESSER dollars.
Thank you.
And then as far as any other updates, I think there's one thing that came to me that we need to just give the board a kind of a heads up on as far as what we would want to include in the agenda next week for your consideration, is lock and replacements. And this is at Westview, correct? Yes, sir. Westview Elementary School, and it's part of our Safe Schools grants funds we've been going through and updating some door hardware for safety reasons, and also just consistency with keys. So, and this one came in as far as we'll be asking requests, permission to bid. So just as a heads up to the board on that.
So we'll make that action item.
I would hope so.
Yeah. Jennifer? Got it? Greenhouse roofs, put it on your list.
Greenhouse roofs was next, and I'm sorry, yep, that's BC. Just roof replacements, those are continued requests. We actually have talked about it in potentially making that happen with ESSER funds. But my recollection, the greenhouse roofs need to be replaced at both, and as far as I can tell, I think the estimated cost is $30,000 per greenhouse. Yes. Those panels are not inexpensive.
Yeah. Is that, so if we put that on action, we're gonna move to bid that out? or do we already
Well,
have?
we will have to bid it out.
Yeah.
We've contacted several engineering companies, we had a local construction. I spent probably a month just trying to find somebody who could do it, so I have that information already, and we found a place out of Georgia that would actually come and do it, and they actually sent me a piece of the polycarbonate that we would use, so, I mean, I have all that. I just couldn't get people to respond. We just can't get people
Right.
to do it. But
Do we still gotta ask to bid it out, I assume?
Yeah.
And then if we get one, we get one, right?
Yeah, we will have to go through the bid process.
So does it, do we need to move to put that on there for action?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to know just a question as to what the level of need is there. I mean, just how bad are they? I've seen the ones at Boone, and they don't look bad to me, but maybe I don't know.
they, both greenhouses at both facilities, they, for a greenhouse to work the way it's supposed to, there has to be a certain amount of light that comes through, and then there has to be a certain amount of moisture that I guess is allowed to escape. And both of those greenhouses are probably built maybe 80s, and they're not effective. They're having trouble, like the light coming through effectively. We did replace last year, or the year before, one piece at Boone's when we had that small tornado storm, and we replaced that, but they're both in pretty bad repair. They're just not working like they should.
Crystal, the one at Boone, what is the vegetables over that? Is that
It's a shade
Well,
cloth.
hard to keep the sunlight in or out, or?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, I'm just asking.
It's, we'd have to ask the ag teachers for definite. The way I understand it, there has to be a certain amount of light that comes in. You want light to come in, but not too much light. And I know that there's problems too with ventilation.
Well, I looked at the one at Crockett, and eventually, yes, it needs to be repaired, my opinion. But, you know, there's some places where it's breaking loose, where the locks is holding the plastic on there. But the biggest thing that I don't like is I don't like the greenhouse. But, I mean, I don't know what else kind of greenhouse is out there that you can put in.
I mean, is this considered a classroom? And are we using them?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
I
I know
think
Boone
it
uses
is.
theirs.
So this is ESSER money.
We can legitimately use it, especially one of the categories in ESSER 3 is CTE programs.
Okay.
Could we get a cost on replacing them with the new updated one? rather than
I'm
roofing
sure we
them?
can get a cost of the new greenhouse.
I mean, if we've got all this extra money, I mean, I'm just,
Gonna be a pretty penny, but, you know, we at least know what it would cost.
but on them, it's like a Quonset hut, I think, in Boone. Crockett's may be the same. I mean, the whole thing is a roof. There's no walls. I mean, I'm just asking if,
It's completely contained, but we can pursue estimates on
The
a
new
new.
greenhouse is gonna cost about $65,000 per each.
And what do you gain? I mean, like Mike says, pretty much the whole thing's roof, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the one at Boone, I mean, you got the brick and mortar on the bottom, and then you have the polycarbonate on the side, and then it is the frame. I mean, that's basically what it is, but it's those special pieces, the polycarbonate, I think, that cost so much. Plus, at $65,000, I'm sure that includes, construction, because those guys are gonna drive here, and it's not gonna be cheap to build it.
so the only thing we're gaining with the price difference is a little bit of the sides. Is that what I'm
Mhm.
hearing?
Yeah,
Is that replacing both of them at Crockett?
I'm sorry.
Are you replacing both of them at Crockett? Because you got two greenhouses
For
at
the
Crockett.
greenhouses,
Yes. Are you putting new roofs on both of them?
yes. Well, the teachers told me that the one is not in bad shape, the other one, the one next to the building is, that's the worst one. But to me, if we're gonna do it, if we have the money, I'd like to do them all.
So you actually got 4 greenhouses.
Correct.
I mean, people sitting here, I don't think they all know this, but they have 4 greenhouses. So are you gonna replace all 4 roofs? Or is this $30,000 per greenhouse?
Per greenhouse.
So
We're talking about
$120,000?
I mean, we're talking about the budget, the existing budget, but then like Mr. Boyd said, we also have ESSER money.
I mean, I understand, but
I would recommend as we complete our ESSER 3 plan, and this meets one of the governor's priorities, and we think about using those funds to either replace the greenhouse or update the greenhouse, replace the roof.
Okay. Mr. Flainer?
I just got something to ask. I noticed Sullivan County, and maybe I'm wrong, but Sullivan County, I know they advertise selling planes and stuff like that, and Happy Valley does, and some of these other schools, but I've not seen anything where Ben and Crockett are been advertising. So I know Crockett has their, annual sale, but as far as, it doesn't, I mean, Chucky Doke, if you drive to Greenville, you can't help but see their huge sign saying Chucky Doke selling plants. And I'm not saying we don't, but how come we don't spread that? I mean, it is a well-known fact that to have 4 greenhouses, looks like there'd be a lot of plants.
I went Monday
I
and
can tell
bought
you what they
some.
do with them if you wanna hear.
You did?
I bought some.
Yeah, we won't hear.
Okay, so
Thank you.
Crockett, what they do, we have a partnership with East Tennessee State University. So at the beginning of the school year, ETSU gives us a list of this is what we want you to grow. Our program purchases it, that's the big greenhouse, they purchase it, and then those plants are bought by ETSU. And so if you go to ETSU and look at their landscaping, that's our plants that we grow from Crockett. That's one greenhouse. The other greenhouse, they have retail, Jonesboro Visitor Center, with the gardening club in Jonesboro, and then Mr. Conger, he actually sells plants at the storefront at Mox in Jonesboro. That's a family, so they do sell. Now that's what they do. Boone, they don't have the partnership with ETSU. They will have a sale, but it's not as big. A lot of times Carly will sell to Onk's Greenhouse in Gray, or he will have retail customers. But that's what they do. They don't, I agree with you, the advertisement, I think it's more of a local in-house school because we have a lot of teachers that buy, but as far as the public, they don't do as much.
Well, and I was gonna back up to that to say, South won't bear, they won't have, I don't reckon they'll have that's a brand new greenhouse. Will they sell that on Gov Deals? I mean, I don't know if you can tear one down and sort of build it back up, but it's fairly new. I don't know, maybe something else to think about where they're doing away with 3 schools or 2 schools.
We certainly could check on those options.
Any idea how old it is?
Yeah, it looks nice.
Is it-
Anything else? Anybody else? We're running out of time before we'll have another meeting here in 4 minutes.
That really was the last item.
Okay.
5-minute break.
Huh?
5-minute break.
Yeah,
If
we'll
I
go
can, before we get into a regular called session and we focus on the budget, I think I shared with each of you the governor's announcement on removal of the executive order around giving local, county mayors the ability to require a mask mandate. What I'm understanding is that then, as far as school systems, it falls on local boards to make those decisions, which I certainly support that in the sense of the local control. I do, however, think before we make any action, and I know you've already probably gotten calls and will get more calls, is there's still, we haven't heard a response from our regional health department yet. And there's a lot of factors in this region. We are having an uptick, particularly in younger age people having positive COVID, being positive for COVID. So I think before we make a decision based on this new, the governor's actions, I think we need to at least hear from the regional health department and make an informed decision. And I will try to, as we get information, we will share it with the board so that when we get to the point, we can make you all can make the best decision possible. We do hope we can get through the rest of this year. We don't have large groups of students and faculty and staff quarantine, especially in consideration of our seniors. I know some of you have also heard that conversation. About the fear of seniors getting in quarantine and won't be able to participate in graduation. We want to do what we believe is best based on the guidance from our regional health department to to get through this school year the best we can. So I just, as a heads up, just want to let you all know and reinforce that the governor has kind of removed that, but it falls to the boards of education to make decisions about the school system and how mask, what's the requirements of the school system. But if we can certainly wait until we get more information from the regional health department before any decisions, we should be in a better position at Tuesday night's regular called board meeting to have a discussion, and if a decision needs to be made, we can make it with more information.
Can I throw out one more thing? You mentioned it. So, and we may not want to do anything. At what point do we want to discuss, because we're down to the wire on graduation, do we want to discuss a plan? I'm getting a ton of complaints. I don't know how to handle that, or is now the time to handle that? Is it Tuesday night time to handle that? Do we discuss it, not do anything? I don't know. What's your suggestion?
Well, I know it's getting to the wire, and I'm understanding maybe talking about the restrictions and the capacity.
Well, I think that was from what we did last year, but I think that I remember the principals just kind of went with that again this year.
Sure.
And I don't want to step on their toes, but I would like to know, they may be just doing that because that's what we did last year.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would appreciate, know at least until Tuesday, an opportunity to talk with the high school principals, get their thoughts, and be prepared to support the discussion Tuesday night.
Do we need to put it on the agenda? Is that okay?
Yes, yes, sir.
All right. Everybody good? All right. Meeting adjourned. Nope.
No.
About finance.
I thought we was going to do a whole finance
We need
meeting.
a 5 minute recess between.
Yeah.
Well, we've got finance.
5 minutes recess. How's that?
We forgot Brad's updates on finance outside of the budget.
Okay, so we'll do that real quick.
Regular items.
All right, so if you need to use the
Trying to hit that
bathroom,
6 o'clock.
I know, if y'all want to use the bathroom, go ahead and we'll do that real quick.
He's not gonna get it that he didn't start at 6.
You're slacking.
Oh, Lord, we got sidetracked.
Beat the deadline.
I know it.
20 seconds.
Jeez. Well, I was sitting there looking at finance. and I'm like, wow,